Hey Chad, how are you doing today?
Hey there, Dustin. I'm hanging in there, not too bad.
All right. Well, thanks for coming in today. As you know, this is one of the first initial sessions in the Seeking Safety Treatment Program. But like we talked about last week, I'm going to start with a check-in, and I'm going to ask you some 5 questions. So we're going to try to make that last about 5 minutes. Okay. So basically, how are you feeling today?
Uh, I've had better days, I guess. The weather has me down a little bit, and I have been thinking about using a little bit. I haven't, but I'm just having, I guess, racing thoughts and kind of cravings to do some dope. So I guess I've had
Okay.
better days to answer your question.
So you've had some racing thoughts today.
Yeah, uh, I I honestly drove past my old dealer's house a few times. And didn't stop in.
Okay. Um, Sorry, the technology here is kind of cutting out, so I'm trying to reiterate some of the stuff that you're saying to me. I just want to make sure. You said something about a dealer's house. Could you repeat that?
Yeah, I drove past my dealer's house, like the old dope guy, a couple times today. Just first time, it just I happened to drive by going to the store, but then I drove past it a couple times thinking, maybe I should just stop in, but I never did.
Okay. Well, tell me, since that's kind of answers our third question, which is the unsafe behavior. But what good coping skill can you tell me that you've used over the past week?
Well, I've asked for help. Uh, my NA sponsor has been there for me
Okay,
all the time.
that's really good.
I definitely reached out for help.
Okay. That's really good. So you're reaching out to people. And are there any other substances or unsafe behaviors that you want to admit to over the last week? Any kind of substance use or anything?
No, no substance use. I'm clean. I'm sober. It's just been thinking about it a
Okay.
lot.
Okay. And did you give me a commitment last week, and have you completed it?
I did just to complete step one, working the 12 steps, just admitting my powerlessness over the drug. And I'm just having issues with it, but I have worked on my commitment to work on step one.
Okay. Okay. So you've worked on the step work that's required for the recovery meetings.
Yes.
And you said that you, for your community resource, you touched base with your sponsor this past week.
Right. Yes, that's correct.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, what we do next, like we did last week, I'm going to give you a quote, and you're just going to briefly tell me, like, what you think it might mean to you. And we're
Okay.
going to try to um, relate it to today's topic, which today's topic is safety and safe coping skills. Okay.
Okay.
So this is a quote by Helen Keller, and she says, "Although the world is full of suffering, it is also full of the overcoming of it." So what do you think what does that mean to you? What are you hearing when you hear that?
The world is full of suffering and full of overcoming it.
And it is also full of overcoming it. Yes.
Well, I'd say Helen Keller is a wise woman. I like that quote, Dustin. It means that to me, although there's a lot of crap out there in the world, there's a lot of light at the end of the tunnel of people trying really hard to overcome the obstacles to make their life better. There's effort.
All right. That's an excellent insight that you have there. And a good way to overcome um, suffering is to know how to cope with it to begin with. So if told you that the most important priority is being safe, what does being safe? What does it? First of all, what does that mean to you? The most important priority is being safe.
just keeping myself out of harm's way, out of situations, out of harmful people, uh, harmful acts that I could get myself into,
Okay.
whether it's sharing needles or unprotected sex.
Okay. That's excellent insight on that. So you kind of told me what some safety things are, but what is safety to Chad? What is that? Just if you can give me a deep definition.
It's comfort, it's a sense of well-being, and a sense of not being scared.
Okay. That is very excellent insight on that. On the topic of safety. So I handed you um, some safe coping skills to look at recently, and I think I gave you about 88 different coping skills.
Mhm.
And have you had a chance to read through those?
I have, yeah, I've read them all.
Oh, wow. Okay. So what I want you to do real briefly is if you can pick three of those that you currently know that you've done at least in the last year, um, or maybe there's something that just come naturally to you. If you can name those to me, and first of all, I want you to name them for me, um, and the example of when you actually use them, if you can think of that.
Sure. The first one is alone is better than a bad relationship.
Okay.
For example, I don't date anybody anymore, and I'd like to eventually, but I just know it's a toxic environment from what I had been doing, and it just wasn't worth bringing anyone else into it. So I've just been alone. So I've been practicing that safe coping skill.
Okay.
The second one, I've been structuring my day a lot more the last 6 months. I had been leading such a chaotic life that I just needed some rigidity. So I've made a daily schedule of what I need to do.
Oh, that's nice.
Even brushing my teeth is on that.
It seems mundane and trivial, but believe it or not, it's actually a real interesting way to cope. So, what name two or three coping skills on there that either you want more information about or you're kind of surprised about?
Uh, I'm kind of surprised about replay the scene. Uh, they want, or you guys want me to review a negative event, like go over it in my head, and I just worry about that. So I guess I need a little more clarification on it, or just why I need to relive, you know, traumatic events in order to understand it. Maybe I'm not quite sure.
Mhm. Right. Well, and as you kind of learned in our intro last week, seeking safety goes hand in hand with traumatic events, and PTSD and substance abuse can be part of that. So that's part of what we're talking about here. Um, and I'm going to read the side, but right beside replay the scene, I'm going to read that little blurb that they have there. It says, review a negative event. What can you do differently next time? The interpretation is possibly that maybe you have a traumatic event or you're a reaction to a traumatic thought or some sort of event like that, or substance abuse event, or a related event that has happened, and you want to avoid it next time. So you think about the event and what you could do differently next time in order to either avoid the situation or just get out safe. Does that make a little bit more sense?
So are you telling me that I should replay the me driving past my D's house, and then uh, what I should do instead of that? So
Possibly. Now, and I also want you to be aware that some of these may not even be necessarily something you want to participate in. So that could be one of them. I'm not going to answer that for you, but not every single safe coping skill is for everyone. So keep that in mind. But that is definitely part of what that skill means. Do you have another one on there that you'd like to chat about briefly before we close?
I guess observe repeating patterns. Maybe I just don't look myself enough to figure that out, but I would find that hard to do. My patterns are my patterns, and I guess it would just be tough to pick up on that sometimes.
Okay. And the blurb beside it asks you to try to notice and understand your reenactments. I'm sure you've heard, especially in meetings like AA or NA or any 12-step meeting, that we all have a pattern of behavior that happens. And sometimes it happens before the event, the traumatic event, the using event, whatever that might be. So I think that is telling you kind of to just be aware that that's about to happen, that you're about to notice the signs that you're about to have some sort of event or thought or whatever it might be. Notice that pattern. Does that make any sense?
I think so. Yeah, that clarifies it for me more, because at the NA meetings they always talk about relapsing up here in your mind before you actually relapse.
Yeah,
physically.
Absolutely.
So, okay,
absolutely. Yeah, do you have any other questions or about the coping skills list?
No, I really like the list, Dustin. It's good stuff.
Okay. So we're going to do a checkout. It's what we talked about last week. I'm going to ask you 3 different things before we wrap up. And the first thing I want to ask is name one thing that you got out of today's session. And this is also the time to address any problems you might have had with today's session as well.
Okay. Well, no problems. I like where we're going. What I got out of it, just the clarification on, the scene. That was something that was bugging me a little bit. So I'm glad we clarified that.
Okay, good. That's something you could take home with you. So what is your new commitment? And try to make it different from last week's commitment. What is your new commitment? And it can be a coping skill as well that you want to complete between now and next session.
I want to do some self-nurture. I just want to go see a movie. I haven't gone to the movies for years, and I'm just going to go by myself and check out a new flick.
All right, that sounds really good. And what community resource are you going to choose to call in the upcoming week?
Am I allowed to stick with NA?
Okay. That's all right. That sounds good.
Okay.
So, all right, Chad, just so you know, we reviewed some safety skills that hopefully you're going to be able to take with you. Next week, we'll talk about that a little bit more, but we'll go into the next topic of more of the traumatic events and PTSD and try to relate all of it together, okay?
All right. Sounds good.
All right. Well, we'll see you next week.
Thanks.